The contract was already on the table when I sat down. Heavy cream paper, my name misspelled by one letter, a pen placed carefully at the top as if anticipation itself could apply pressure. And my uncle's hand rested on my shoulder, with a familiarity that felt rehearsed, not affectionate. While the rest of the room continued pretending this was a normal dinner, and not an ambush that had been planned down to the placement of the wine glasses. I didn't look up right away because I didn't need to in order to feel the shift. The way conversation thinned, the way my aunt stopped chewing, the way my cousin's knee bounced under the table like he was bracing for impact. And I understood in that quiet half-second that whatever version of family I had been carrying in my head was already gone, replaced by something colder that had been circling me for months, waiting for a moment where I would be tired enough to comply. The document wasn't long, which was deliberate, just a clean transfer of authority. Temporary in language and permanent in consequence, framed as protection, framed as help, framed as something I'd regret not agreeing to once I came to my senses. And my uncle leaned closer and said my name the way people do, when they're about to say something they believe excuses everything else. I noticed small things instead, like how the fireplace wasn't lit, even though it was February. How my grandmother's chair was empty but no one acknowledged it. How the music playing from the speaker was loud enough to fill silence, but not loud enough to drown intention. And how every single person at that table avoided my eyes except the one who needed my signature. I'd been expecting this, not tonight exactly, not this wording. But the attempt itself had been inevitable ever since my grandmother stopped speaking in full sentences. And they realized the questions she used to answer wouldn't need to be answered anymore if they moved fast enough. And the speed was the tell, the thing they couldn't hide behind politeness. My uncle squeezed my shoulder harder, not enough to bruise, but enough to signal escalation, and said I didn't have to make this difficult, that everyone here wanted what was best for me, that stress made people unreliable, and that I'd thank him later when things were stable again. And the word stable landed wrong, too practiced, too often used by people who don't mean it. That was when someone spoke from behind me. Not loudly, not sharply, just clearly enough that the room had no choice but to acknowledge it. And the sound of that voice broke the shape of the evening in a way no argument ever could. My grandmother's attorney stood in the doorway with his coat still on and a tablet tucked under his arm. And behind him was the hospice nurse, who had learned more from silence than most people learn from conversation. And neither of them looked surprised to see us arrange this way, which told me everything I needed to know about how late this plan was. No one moved, not even my uncle, whose hand slid from my shoulder like he'd suddenly remembered it didn't belong there. And the attorney said he hoped he wasn't interrupting. But that given the timing, this seemed like the appropriate moment to clarify a few misunderstandings before anything irreversible happened. I didn't speak because I didn't need to, because the power had already shifted and the people who rely on pressure can't function once it's removed. And I watched my cousin finally look at me, really look, like he was searching my face for something he'd missed, some sign that this wasn't real. The attorney set the tablet on the table and turned it so everyone could see. And on the screen was my grandmother, thinner than she'd been the last time I visited, but unmistakably present. Eyes focused, voice steady. Recorded weeks ago on a day when everyone else had been too busy discussing logistics to notice she was still listening. She spoke calmly about consent, about trust, about the difference between help and force. And she said that if anyone was watching this because they'd tried to push instead of ask, then they already knew they were wrong. And that the clause had been written for that exact reason. Because family has a way of mistaking access for entitlement. My uncle tried to interrupt, but the attorney raised a hand, not aggressively, just enough, and explained that the moment coercion entered the room, any claim they thought they were protecting had already dissolved, that the safeguards had been triggered automatically, and that what sat in front of me was now nothing more than evidence. The silence that followed wasn't dramatic. It was administrative, the kind that settles after a decision has already been made. And I felt something in my chest loosen, not because I'd won, but because I no longer had to pretend I was safe among people who measured love by compliance. I stood, pushed my chair back gently so it wouldn't scrape, and told them I wasn't taking anything away from anyone, that I was simply no longer available to be managed. And my voice didn't shake because clarity rarely does. No one stopped me as I walked out, past the untouched food, past the contract no one wanted to look at anymore, into the cold air that felt honest in a way the room never had. And behind me the house stayed quiet, not out of respect, but because there was nothing left to argue about.